Vermont town.
Call the City Council meeting to order Monday, November 20th, 6:30 p.m. City Council Room. Alderman Miriam and Jeanette are absent this evening. Others present include James Johnson, our clerk treasurer, and our city manager, Laura Dogan. And at this time, we were supposed to have a public hearing, but unfortunately, it came to my attention this afternoon, we had an error in the timeline of the public notice being published in the local papers for tonight's public hearing on the amendment to the municipal plan. We posted notices on November 3rd, but unfortunately they didn't get published until November 7th in the New Orleans County Record and November 8th in the Newport Daily. Therefore, in the interest of transparency and following the letter of the law, which is Title 24 VSA Section 4444, Public Hearing Notice for Adoption, Amendment, and Repeal of Bylaw, any public notice required for a public hearing under this subchapter shall be given not less than 15 days prior to the date of the public hearing. And with that unfortunate mishap, which found out is not uncommon, happens in other municipalities also, so we're not the first to have this happen. We will be having the public hearing on the amended municipal plan on December 18th. That will be the public hearing for the amendment to the municipal plan. It was just a timing effort of the dates, and we didn't quite meet the 15-day, unfortunately. And so with that, we're going to go into the regular council meeting. And I do need to change item number 10, which was the executive session. That will become after old business, if that's okay with the council. Okay. And then now we'll go to item number 2, which is to approve the minutes of November 6, 2017. And for the record, Mr. Jeanette is present now. And so we need a motion to approve the minutes of November 6th.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve the minutes of 6 November 2017.
A motion been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Discussion on the minutes. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. The next item would be to approve the minutes of November 13th. And I would entertain a motion on that.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion we approve the minutes of 13 November 2017.
Motion been made. Is there a second? Made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Then hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item is comments by members of the public. I believe we had, I didn't see the sign-up sheet, but I believe we had one person who signed up.
Sure. As you recall, a couple of weeks ago, we had a vote on the water tower and it was defeated, but I saw in the papers that there was hope that you were going to try again at the next vote. And I wanted any number of questions answered prior to that so that we have full transparency and not just the council's position, which was sent around. So the first part of it is we need to know, in addition to the $60,000 that the bond would cost us per year, assuming we got that special loan, how much we would pay in operating costs, how much we would pay in maintenance costs for this new tower, and obviously there's the additional $30,000 that we have to pay to get out of the Derby contract. That's the number that needs to be compared with what we get by any other plan. Now, your experts, when they came in, mentioned, though they hadn't really worked it up, obviously, that simply by using booster pumps from the Palin Reservoir, you could get water to any number of places on the east side. And so one suggestion is simply that you keep the Derby contract for the places you've got. When a new builder comes and says, hey, I want to build up there, and you send him to Derby and he needs more water than Derby wants to give or can afford to give, then we just use boosters, booster pumps, until we find out, and we want to know how much do the booster pumps, if we use them, cost, what would be the operating cost for them, what would be the maintenance costs, and how many additional gallons per day can we get by simply using booster pumps and not building the tower. The Derby selectmen told us by letter to the editors that if they were fine, they would give us as much water as we wanted for free. If we ever had a problem with that, I want to know the answer to that. The mayor suggested that probably in 15 to 20 years we might have some significant growth on the east side. Well, just think of the savings we have if we wait 15 to 20 years before we build a water tower. You don't have to pay for the water tower starting now. If you don't get if you don't get construction up there, you don't have to build it at all. It might cost more to build, but it might cost less to build in 20 years. For all you know, new technology comes along and you can build something much cheaper that's even better. New grants, new loan schemes, and you haven't had the maintenance costs and problems of a water tower for 20 years. You can build it new in 20 years and start fresh. And then I thought again about Plan C. You know, I've heard this phrase used in the glossy that was put out. We want to control our own destiny. Well, if two towns are more linked than Derby and Newport and us poor people in the Northeast Kingdom, I mean, we want to cooperate. What's good for us should be good for them and vice versa. And we want, in addition to cooperation on water, on everything else, because if they do well, we'll do well. And if we do well, they'll do well. And we're going to reach the right people to talk to in Derby. And it doesn't have to be with lawyers anymore. There's no lawsuit anymore. So find the people, talk to the people, work it out. If both communities with similar interests that we have can't work it out, what hope do we have for the whole world to work things out?
Okay.
That's about it. So I'm asking that all these questions be discussed and answered, and I expect your expert to have the numbers for us at the next two meetings that they would have for a warning before we vote again on a water tower that we may not need for 20 years or at all.
Okay. Anything else? We'll move on. Item number 4, we do not need. That was a vote on the municipal plan. We do not need that. Next item, Efficiency Vermont Services in Newport presentation by Michelle McCutcheon-Shower.
Sure, you were so close.
And Senior Analyst Hillary Orsini.
Orsini.
Welcome.
Thanks, thank you. And so hi, my name is Michelle McCutcheon-Shore. I work for Efficiency Vermont. I want to first thank the council for giving me your time and offering this forum up for us to present on what we're trying to do in Newport. So I'm not sure how the slides are going to progress.
You tell me when and I'll move
Okay, all right, so before we move on, I just want to give a little introduction to myself. I'm a senior analyst at Efficiency Vermont. My actual background is mostly in transportation, but I've now moved into doing community work with Efficiency Vermont in buildings. I am focused on Newport for the next couple months, trying to make sure that the community takes advantage of everything Efficiency Vermont can give. Efficiency Vermont is funded through your efficiency charge on your utility bill, so it's really just making sure that the money is coming back into the community and that we are supporting the community as best as we can. So we're going to give you a quick presentation. We're going to have to jet afterwards, but I'm leaving my card and a handout, particularly on some of the services that we can offer to small businesses, because there's a lot in this area I think that could serve from us, but we also have services that we can provide for you as an individual and your home. So you can go to the first slide. So who is Efficiency Vermont? We are founded in 2000, but we were actually established by the legislature the year before in 1999. But we started first serving the state with actual services in 2000. We are a statewide energy efficiency utility. We serve the entire state of Vermont except for Burlington. Burlington has their own energy efficiency utility through Burlington Electric, but we serve everyone from Rutland up to Newport. We have 3 offices, one in Burlington, which is our headquarters, one in Barre, and one in Rutland. We are administered by the Vermont Energy Investment Corporation. You'll see on my card that that's actually who's listed there. That's who I officially work for, but we administer Efficiency Vermont, and that's probably our biggest contract. And we help businesses and individuals improve their bottom lines by improving lighting, heating, cooling, all that kind of stuff to bring down those overall costs so that they then can better invest in their homes or in their businesses. You can go to the next slide. So what have we been doing since 2000? What has been our impact? So we help utilities buy less power. And not only is this great that you're not putting out as much money as you are monthly on your bill, we're helping bring down the cost for the whole state, because when you have utilities buying less power, we need less power plants to produce that power. The state itself doesn't have to invest in the overall grid. So we are part of the New England grid, meaning that we have to pay into the distribution lines and all that kind of stuff that moves the power across the region. And when we use less power, we have to invest in that less, which is great. Without energy efficiency, Vermonters would be actually paying 15% more than they were in 2000, which is kind of crazy when you think about how much improvements that we've had in energy efficiency. Without that, we actually would probably be paying more. So we've done a lot of work to help reduce the cost overall, not just for homes, but also for the state altogether. Move on to the next slide. So for every dollar that has been invested in Efficiency Vermont, we see about $2 worth of savings across the state. Vermonters, in average, save about 5% lower on their electricity bill through our services. And 90% of Vermonters have participated in our programs, which is actually pretty fantastic when you think about how rural our state is and how difficult it can be sometimes to reach every individual. And so this is also why we're going out to some of these further communities, trying to make sure that we can get that number up to 100 as much as we can. Go to the next slide. So what can we do for Newport? We have a lot of services that we can offer to, again, individuals and businesses, and we will tailor those to those businesses and individuals who reach out to us. If you go on our website, you'll see some of our standard rebates that we have out there. But if you have a business in particular that you're interested in doing some type of energy efficiency work, it's best to reach out to us so that we can help tailor that program to you. We offer education, we have incentives, we offer technical assistance as well as financing assistance. We can do cash flow analysis to really look at, okay, if you invest in this new hot water heater or your new heat pump, how long will it take for you to see that payback happen? We actually spent the day, Hillary and I, walking around talking to some Newport businesses and got some great feedback of some people who have already used us and are seeing great savings month to month, and we actually are seeing a quicker ROI than they anticipated, which is just fantastic news for us. We can help you look at quotes from contractors and then also understand how to manage your usage and your, particularly as a business, when the best time to be using energy is and how maybe we can help reduce that overall cost if you're experiencing demand charges. So I'm going to hand this over to Hillary. Hillary's going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the work that we've done in the state. Hi.
Yeah, my name is Hillary Orsini. I just came into Efficiency Vermont about a year ago. And since then have been a program manager with our small and medium-sized business team, which is really exciting for me because I think when I think of Vermont, I'm often thinking of all of the small and medium-sized businesses. I grew up in Lindenville, and that's basically what we have there. So this year, we've been really focusing on how we can take the focus, keep the focus on the large guys, but also bring the focus to the small and medium-sized guys. And we have a couple of account managers out in the state who are actually available to come into a business, do a free energy walkthrough, talk to people about what's actually going on, and then tailor our services to meet the real needs of the people in the stores. So the Swift House Inn is one example. They're saving $815 a year. They called up, they were having some complaints because they have this inn that was built in the 1800s. I live in a house from the 1800s. It's super, super drafty. And so we worked with them and we helped them come up with a system where when a room is not being used, it drops down to a set point, the temperature goes down, and as soon as people come back in, it comes back up to the temperature that the guests are comfortable at. So by doing that, they're getting fewer guest complaints, and they're also seeing a lot of savings, and they're just rolling that back into the business. This guy, this man here, he said, Dan Brown said, you know, people like history of our inn, but they don't want to be living in the past, which is great. I think personally my favorite thing that we can do for businesses is when we can help with the overall operational costs, and we can lower that overhead and also solve a problem that they were having anyway. We worked with another grocery store in the state and we improved their lighting, and we heard that customers had literally been shopping with flashlights because to read the labels like on the food. In other cases, like when we can come into a warehouse and improve the lighting, they're having to maintain those lights less. They don't have to change them out, and then people make fewer errors when they're picking product out. So there's a lot of things like that. And if you know a small or medium-sized business owner, if you are one yourself or in your own home, a lot of times those issues that kind of come up, those discomfort things, you know, people are cold in my restaurant, whatever it is, can be solved hand in hand with an energy efficiency solution. And we're able to really help you pay for that and make it happen. The next slide is another example. This is Jolly, which are all over the place. I think I wrote it down somewhere. They have 35 stores in Vermont. A lot of them are open 24 hours a day. So by simply changing out the light bulbs to LEDs, like in the parking lot, in the stores, and then actually doing some work with the refrigeration, so making beer caves and those walk-in coolers instead of the reach-in coolers, they're saving $48,000 a year. A lot of times the savings, I know myself without this technical background, I've been really surprised at what it can do for you just to get an LED in the fixture. I've been working on my 1800s house myself. Yeah, so the next slide is the process for working with us. First up, you can just give us a call. I mean, it's on the internet, it's on this handout here, but you just call our customer support team. They're located in Vermont. They get it. They work with Vermonters every day, and they can help you talk through what is actually going on in your home or your business and figure out what the next step is. A lot of times they're going to say, hey, here's a rebate, so if you buy that more efficient refrigerator, you're going to get $70 back, or if you buy these light bulbs, you're going to get X back. If you have a more complicated project and you're actually thinking, like, I want to build a beer cave in my store, in my house, I don't know, I'll go out and get quotes from vendors and installers, and then in the third step, we'll actually help you review those and say, like, okay, is this a reasonable amount to be paying? What do we think you're actually going to save? We can do analysis on that. What's your return on investment here? How long is it until you're going to pay back? And we have a business energy loan product as well. So if you need financing, we're happy to work with you on that. We partner up with Vermont State, I always mess this up, VSECU.
The Vermont State
There it is.
Employee and Credit Union. Yeah, there you go.
I'm so happy you're recording this. But we partner with them so that it's easier for you all to get a loan, make it happen quickly, and then we work with them to keep the interest rate really, really low. Build that all in. Step 4, complete the project, and then step 5, apply for your rebates. And I just want to make the point that the rebates aren't competitive. So if you have an agreement at the front end that this is how we're going to support you, it's not something that's going to disappear on the back end because somebody else got there sooner or because the program changed. It's one thing that we take really seriously. Yeah, so if you're not sure where to start, please give us a call. Like Michelle said, we're focused on the Newport area, so we are so excited and happy to come up and have someone like physically go through your space with you and talk about your concerns. I think that's that. If there's any questions.
In regards to the vendors and the installers, does it have to be the state certified vendor and installer? Because I can remember years ago when I put solar power on my house, I forego all the state certified people only because it was going to triple the project.
Yeah.
And I saved doing it myself versus the state list of required vendors. And so have they done away with that so that you can go to a local electrician or a local person versus having to say, okay, I need to go to vendor A, which by the way, the cost triples? Just curious.
Yeah, So we have a list of contractors who we work with. It's called the Energy Excellent Network, and it's people that we've had good experiences with, so that if you don't know where to start, this is where you can go. If you have your own people that you like to work with, we have absolutely no problem with that. There is one program that I'll give you a heads up about, and that's our building performance program and our home performance program. If you go to put insulation in your house or business and you want to apply for a rebate, that's the one time that I can think of where you need to make sure you work with someone who's actually certified. And that's a health and safety thing on our end, because if you tighten up a house too much, you can have mold issues, et cetera, et cetera. So I would recommend that before you like go gung-ho, build the thing out, you know, and pay for it and then apply for your rebates. Like, talk to us on the front end so that you never have the experience where you've put the money out, you're expecting to get a rebate, and then like, oh no, here's a red flag.
And I would just reiterate that there is flexibility, and so we always say to people, if you have an idea for a project or you know you want to invest in something, call us first. And we're not there to say no, we're just there to figure out how we can work with you on it. So, yeah.
Just if you could clarify on the website, some of the rebates end at the end of the calendar year. Will they start again in the new calendar year?
Yes. Yeah. Some of them change though. Right now we're running a limited time offer where if you apply for certain rebates online, you get a 20% bonus on your incentive. So that's like this time limited offer that's probably, it's not going to stretch on forever and ever. It's also not scheduled to end like right on January 1st.
Yeah, I'll say that we reevaluate everything each year, and so there's no guarantee that what's there will be there next year. There's a lot of programs that we have continued for a while, and so there's a likelihood that a number of them will be there, but I would say if you have an interest and you see a good rebate and you know you want to do it, to move forward with it, or call our customer service and they can talk you through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But I don't want to take up too much more time of the meeting. I thank you all again for listening, and I hope this was some helpful information. Like I said, I'm going to leave my card. You can call our customer support, or you can call me directly if you would rather talk to us. And again, these little brochures just walk through some of the things that we can do for small businesses. So thank you to the council, and particularly to Laura to help organize this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for coming.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
The next item would be the brokerage services vote. And we had a discussion on the last 2 meetings ago, right? 2 meetings ago.
Yes.
And so it was requested that Laura go out and get an additional quote. And I'll let Laura take over and answer any questions.
So Jack Roberge is a local provider that we hired as a professional consultant going through our Public Works negotiated contract. And part of that contract requires that Jack come back and help sign everybody up to their new medical insurance. When Jack went through that process, he realized that the city had a void in our benefits program. And he submitted an independent insurance broker proposal for medical insurance and long and short-term and life insurance. Long-term disability, short-term disability, and life insurance. And he submitted a rate, and Vermont League of Cities and Towns has submitted their rate. Vermont League of Cities and Towns is, it's a composition of, if you will, if that's the right word, as part of their Vermont League of Cities and Towns Employment Resource and Benefits Trust. The acronym is VERB. And they offer a service called a Health Insurance Advisory Services Agreement, which is actually a contract with Hickok and Boardman. And they have submitted their proposal, which is a slightly lower rate than Jack's. And these are both based on 28 benefited employees, and the distinction with these employees is that they are the number of people who currently receive medical insurance. Regarding the short-term disability, the long-term disability, That is something that is offered just to the police department as part of their public work, as part of their negotiated contract. All of us have life insurance. So one of the things that is interesting to me about this is that while Hickok and Boardman is less expensive, the services that our local provider is more encompassing. He has the ability to do a total audit of our benefits package and make a recommendation. So I've written you a memo that just described what I've learned so far and give you the opportunity to ask any questions of Jack.
Questions from any council member for Jack? Go ahead.
Actually for Laura. Do you have a sense of how many long-term, short-term disability claims there are on average in a year?
There's very few claims, but there's workman's comp claims, and that's a pretty regular routine. So the short-term and long-term disability is rather complex because the amount of sick leave that's accumulated complements the benefit. So it gets a little complicated. I hope I can articulate it for you. Basically, we change the amount of sick leave that the police can accumulate so that their short-term disability kicks in on that 7th day, 8th day. Basically, it rolls right into one so that there's no gap in coverage. I hope that helps.
Yes, but isn't workers' comp a different policy altogether?
Yeah, that's not something that I would do with workers' comp.
Right, that's with
Because
Vermont
I'm
League of
not
Cities and
licensed
Towns,
with
right,
workers' comp.
right. We already have the workman's comp through Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
Other questions from council members? I'm gonna hold off until we have a formal motion. Any questions, Mr. Shinet?
On page 5 of this proposal here, says that there's a 10% discount that applies if all available services are chosen. And also below that, it states that there's another 10% discount for other services that are not included above. Is that above and beyond the proposal that they gave us? Or is that included in the figure that they gave us?
The figure that I'm basing this on is just for the medical. It's the figure that I'm basing this on is on page 6, which is the base support and the annual management fee for 28 employees. That covers just the top portion of your page 5. Description and terms. Scope of services to be provided. Medical, prescription drugs, health savings account, which I don't believe we have, the health reimbursement arrangement, which we do have, and flexible spending accounts, which we have.
So it's possible then that you could benefit by another 10% discount on these listed down here at the bottom of page 5,
Yeah.
as well as another 10% on top of that for other services, based on what this is saying.
Right, so that's health advocate, ACA compliance support, including excise tax analysis. Benefits, I don't know what that is. Compliance dashboard, human resources hotline, I assume that's what HR and client resource center. So the health advocate and the HCA compliance support is included. The others have an additional charge. So I assume that that's $850 per eligible employee, and I'm assuming that that's something to do with their medical insurance. Those would be additional charges, and I'm assuming that the total of those would qualify for the 10% discount.
Because when I read this, I assumed that all this was gonna cost above and beyond the 57, the 5540. And I read that, I interpreted those as being additional above and beyond the 5540. Quite other questions for, yes?
So, I remember Mr. Roberge saying that the state sets a brokerage fee at $20 per month per enrolled employee. Is that a max, and then somebody like the LCT can charge less?
They can charge less because they're not insurance agents, they're not licensed. That's why they have to go outside and use a public ordinance. So they're not held at the same rules that I am. I can charge less if I wanted to, but since I'm offering more services than they are, and I'm also going to be handling, you have some people on Medicare, I'll take care of those insurances as well, which they're not going to do. So I'm not willing to negotiate my fee because I'm very small.
Sure.
They're huge and they can do that.
So 20 is the max, but you
Yeah,
can go
no,
less? Okay.
I could if I really, but I choose not to because I offer
Sure.
more services.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
So would Hickok and Boardman also be,
Hickok and Boardman, but
they
they're,
can't go above the 20?
but they've contracted with VLCT. What VLCT's paying them, I don't know.
But it shouldn't be over the $20, right?
It cannot be over
That's-
$20.
That's a state mandate.
That's the state maximum, yes.
Thank you.
Other questions from the council members? Then we will need a vote. On who you so choose. I think myself, for the little cost difference in the services being offered by a local person, that's who I would go with myself.
Thank you.
But leave it up to the council to make a motion of who they so choose.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we go ahead and use the services provided by Jack Wilburge for the brokerage services for the employees of the city of Newport.
Motion been made, is there a second? No second, so the motion fails. We need another motion, if anyone chooses.
Can I ask a question? So at our last meeting, when Mr. Roberge was here, I believe we had discussed having at this meeting a decision to go out and request other proposals from other brokers. I don't recall us deciding that we would obtain another quote and have to choose one or the other tonight.
It was decided at the last meeting that the city manager would go out and get quotes.
That's not my recollection.
That's my recollection. And also, technically, if you go by the city's purchasing policy, this is below, way below the maximum of even having to go out for quotes. Because the purchasing policy, I believe, is anything 10,000 or less.
Actually 15.
Is it 15 now? 15,000 or less, you normally don't have to go out and get quotes.
And there's no other brokers in town that does this.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal from the Health Insurance Advisory Services through VLCT.
So a motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Discussion on that by council members first? Yes.
About 3.5 years ago, probably, I remember Jack, I think it was, came with a proposal before another council, but it was for the same thing, for, I thought, brokerage fees. And at that time, I thought John Ward was pretty explicit about the fact that even though we were going to a new policy, and a lot of people might have to be signed up for it, he thought it was within the purview of the city manager and the city manager's staff to be able to handle all of the applications for the insurance and all of that, and that he did not want to see the city residents having to pay what Jack is now saying would be about $8,000, and I don't know how much this other policy might cost you, but that it was well within the purview of the city manager and that staff to handle this. You could read a contract, you could help people fill out the applications, you could consult with the insurance company if there was an issue for one of the staff. So, you know, as I see us just adding another, let's add another $8,000 here, let's add another $35,000 there. I just ask you to really consider whether or not you need this at all, or whether or not it's within the purview of the city manager to be able to handle.
Well, if you spoke to the staff, they would say that they miss the services of having someone to assist them with some of the challenges that they've been having with the medical insurance. And I don't know that that's a reflection of the city manager, or simply that we're lay people. There are people in the medical field who are experts and who can help shepherd them through their challenges. We've had a number of people have issues with their cost of their prescriptions, with the cost of their services, and we do provide assistance to our employees wherever we can. We also have questions that come up with the health reimbursement account. It is complex. So having a service like this as a benefit to our employees, I think, is something that they would welcome. I don't think it's a reflection of the city manager. I don't think it's a reflection of the competencies of the staff that work here. I think it's providing a service for our employees that they will actually appreciate, having a go-to person that can help shepherd them through some challenges that they've had.
Can I add something to that? The reason why I brought it up is because during the 2 years that I was on the city council, I was actually doing it for free, because I felt it was part of my responsibility. So I did help, you know, the guys did reach out to me because they knew that I was their broker 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And when I sat in on the negotiation, some of the issues were brought up that's happened since I was off the council. That's why I came up with the idea that they need, the city needs a broker, be it me or anybody else. They need somebody to help out that knows how to maneuver around the system. John Ward did excuse my French, but a horrible job doing that. He did not know, nothing against John, but he did not know the ins and outs of insurance and how to maneuver through the the underwriting and all that, and it showed. So, like I said, it's not something. If it's not going to be a time that the city needs a professional to help them, to help the employees. By not hiring one, it's a disservice to the employees, and it's not $8,000. It's only $20 per times 28. That's around 6,000.
Yeah, 6,720 if you do the math.
Yes, I couldn't agree with the city manager more on this case. Ordinarily, I would be all for saving the money that could be handled, for a service that could be handled in-house. However, health insurance is just such a sticky wicket, and there's so much liability involved, and it is such a specialty. I was shocked actually to find out that Ms. Dogan has been having to handle those difficult questions from staff and negotiating for rates herself. Additionally, I feel very strongly that any questions that a covered member asks should be able to be handled by somebody with anonymity. If I were at the drugstore wanting to pick up my Viagra prescription and there was something going on that I thought it was supposed to be covered and it wasn't, I don't want to go to my local broker and ask that question if I'm picking up a sensitive prescription. I would much rather call a stranger, and I think most people would agree with me.
It's not the way it happens. I get those questions all the time from other clients. I'm really disappointed the council would rather go out of state, out of the city, and not use somebody's paying taxes here. Really disappointed in you. That shows your loyalty to local businesses. Thank you.
Mr. Roberge, I am basing my decision based on my knowledge of how you have acted on this side of this table. That is why I am making the suggestion.
That is sad.
Oh, okay.
That's sad. That's real sad.
We have a motion and a second, then. Yes.
I'd like to hear Mr. Wilson's view. I'd like to know why you're voting the way you, how do I say it? How you're tell me why you're not voting or voting for, but you didn't want to second the
Because
motion.
VLCT comes in at a lower cost.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I mean, nay.
Nay. And I will vote no.
So we have no brokerage service.
We have no brokerage service right now. And I voted no because I believe in supporting the local business. And for the costs, the price difference here, it wasn't, in my opinion, enough of a difference. And we need to do all we can to support local businesses. And I strongly feel that way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We need to move on. Next item, Newport Ambulance FY 18-19 presentation. We have Charlie.
You want paperwork, or have you handed any of this out?
No, I figured it's a proposal, and I didn't distribute it until after you come before us. I think that's probably the best way to do it. So folks, I didn't put anything in any packets.
I didn't know if you wanted any information.
Oh, well, why don't you come up and pull up a
Do I
chair?
sit
if
on
you
the
want?
floor, or is there a chair?
You'll have to grab a chair. And
I just noticed that, the chairs.
Well, you might want to stand.
Well, you know, I'm getting old for this. I'll just make some room. How's that?
you make yourself comfortable.
Hi. Hello. So, President of the ambulance service, you know, we've gone back and forth. I've been president of the board for 30 years, I guess. Took it over when I was mayor, so that was a long time ago. And 2 years ago, last year, we decided to enter into a contract to do stuff, and I know you guys do your budgets in end of November, stuff like that, so we usually do ours, and we're usually coming in fairly good, and it's not that much of an emergency, but as this year progressed, we realized that we were going to be going in a hole considerably for various reasons. So we did our budgets early. We haven't approved a budget for the service yet, but we have come up with two budgets, one that we'd like and one that is the minimum to operate in the current capacity that we operate, which is 24/7 people at this. There's no on-call. We have people at the ambulance service all the time. We have two crews during the day, one crew in the evening, and an on-call crew in the evening. So when we did our budgets, came up with the solutions for trying to cut things and do whatever we needed to do, we realized that we're going to come in considerably higher than what we did last year. Last year, we level funded our budget to the city from the prior year. So I said, well, before we do any of this, I think we probably should be going to the towns and saying, here's our dilemma, here's what's happened to us. This is what the minimum amount we need to continue on as we are going, and here's what we'd like. And so we met with a couple of people up front and gave them the things, and they all about had a heart attack. So that's why I'm here tonight, to bring it before the council. But, so I don't know, we went from, the nuts and bolts of it is for 2017, we're projecting a loss of around $43,000. We only have two sources of revenue. Well, we have three sources of revenue. We have the towns that we service. We have billing for ambulance runs. And we have a billing department where we do billing for other services, and we try to make some money doing that to bring it in. The ambulance runs are a guess, just a guessing game. We go on the pass. Some years we're up, some years we're down. So the revenue stream is always a little different. Part of what happened to us this year to get to that $43,000 loss, I try to make this relatively simple, but because there are a lot of factors that go in there, but about $20,000 of that was the state of Vermont cost shifting, because they're trying to find money, because their budget's down, so they decided they were going to put a 3% premium tax on our ambulance runs. So the money that we receive for ambulance runs, our income, they call it premium tax, it's 3%, so our income's about $700,000, so it's about $21,000. This year, in the budget that I have to date, right now, we paid them over $18,000. It's going to be close to $21,000. So that was on unanticipated revenue. All ambulances in the area, and we are the only full-time career ambulance service. The rest are all on call. They might have one paid employee, but most of them they're not really volunteer, because I think they all pay some, but they're not. I mean, we provide health insurance. We have, full-time crews. Some of our people are paramedic level, which we're the only ones that have that. And all of them are struggling. All of them are struggling to find people. And, you can't just pull a trained EMT off the street. It's a process. As a result of that struggle, two of the squads that we were doing billing for decided that they couldn't afford us to do their billing. So they decided to do their own. I expect they'll probably be back, but those two ended up, that's another $21,000 in revenue that we lost, that we didn't anticipate. Federal government on top of that, we need to buy 2 new ambulances. The federal government on top of that decided that they were putting new requirements on stretchers that go in any new ambulance. The stretchers that go in the new ambulance the stretcher system makes our current stretchers obsolete. So we had to buy 2 new ambulances. We had to buy 2 new stretcher systems as a result of that, instead of using the ones that we just transfer from ambulance to ambulance. At a tune of $27,000 per ambulance. And that was something that came into effect last July. We had already made our budget by the time that came in. $27,000 of that was here in Newport, because that's where, and the figures that I'm giving you are for the Newport portion of it. As some of you may be aware, we also do Johnson area, 5 towns in Johnson. So I'm just dealing with it. So $27,000 of that federal mandate affected us directly. So anyways, that's $60,000, $70,000 right there, just unanticipated costs that we hadn't anticipated in our budget. So we made up about $25,000 of that as a donation from a local person. Hence, we're going to be about $43,000 now. So, there are other smaller items. One of the problems is maintaining staff. I mean, the city took one of our trained EMTs that we'd had forever, because you guys pay them more than we do as a police officer. we've had the same thing happen. We've actually lost people from this area to Fletcher Allen. We can't compete with their pay scale for a lot of years. We haven't given our people a raise for 2 years. Starting medic makes $13 an hour, which is unacceptable. So, so the two budgets that we laid out, one was 2018 P budget, which I don't know if we'll turn them out or not, but and that was a budget to recoup the $43,000 that we anticipated losing and put in those additional fees for next year so that we don't lose it again. So when you do that, you're doubling it up. So it's about $80,000. Some health insurance increases, there's, you know, small increases here and there, but those are the really big items. That would affect the city of Newport by about $41,000. So last year you gave us $105,000 in the last 2 years. That would be $146,000. So that's from you guys. You know, our total budget's $1 million. So that's the bare bones one. The 2018 N, which is what we really like. We would like to give our people $1 an hour raise so that we don't continue to lose them, pay them somewhere. It'd still be less than the $15 an hour that everybody thinks that a McDonald's hamburger flipper should get. But I mean, we got to start somewhere. And then we have two machines that total about $50,000 that we should be replacing. We have those are the automatic defibrillators, and I'm not a medic, so I'm not going to give you the. Basically, it's a machine that we put on you, and the machine does all the work. It's a lifesaver. And we have a couple of them that are going to be nearing obsolete. We keep buying them, but the ones we have now, they no longer make parts for. So buying parts to keep them going is a tough thing. We have a couple of older ones that we've been robbing parts off from. We can't get parts, and the new ones are about $25,000 a piece. We should have two of them in Newport. That's another $50,000. So to get to that budget where we give them a raise and buy the equipment that we think we need, that $105,000 figure would be $185,000. Which is a lot of money, and we understand that. So our board said, you know what? Let's present these two figures, explain what we want to do. And why we want to do it, and see how that pans out with the cities and the towns. Well, the initial meeting I had, it wasn't all that special. And I understand that. That's why I came in up front, because, you know, I didn't want to come in to you in the end of November or first part of December and say, this is what we want for a company. I want to work with the cities and the towns. I did mention that anything less than the $40,000 increase, I don't believe we'd be able to provide the current quality of service that we provide. In other words, we are the only ones that provide 24/7, two people on, there's always somebody there. And they're coming from the ambulance bay. You get a phone call, 4 or 5 minutes we're there, versus calling somebody in, having them come, show up, take the ambulance. It's a tough pill. Probably should have had some more money last year, but some of this is just cost shifting from the state to us, and we make our budgets a year in advance. So.
The question I have, So you don't keep it, yeah, I know you're a nonprofit, it's supposed to be income out, whatever, equal, whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of nonprofits do have reserves. You have absolutely no cash reserves whatsoever?
No cash reserves whatsoever.
Okay.
We have a $50,000 line of credit, which is what we've always balanced ourselves back and forth. So we have had years where we'll lose $40,000, we go to our line of credit, we take it, we do it. We try to put it in our next budget, or we make cuts or do whatever we can do, run it back down. Currently, our line of credit is at 0. So, but we only have a $50,000 line of credit. So that's it, that's all we have, that's all we have to work with. We've always been able to make that balance, pay it back, go back and forth. I mean, some years we'll project a run volume and it'll be better.
What about
Some
for
areas
this
not.
equipment, there's gotta be grants out there, I know there are, I've read about other ambulances getting grants for defibrillators, I mean,
That's how we got it.
okay, can we apply again, because
We
there's a
have.
lot of grant money
We have.
out there.
No, there's not for ambulances.
I don't know, I've been seeing quite a bit from USDA and others out there.
Well, USDA grants, let me give you an idea of USDA.
I'm just, cause
We had a USDA grant to build the building that we're in. Because we took the USDA grant, they were saving us $75,000. But all their requirements cost us $80,000 more to build it, in the end, we were $5,000 more. So, USDA may have some money out there. We have applied for them, and we don't have a problem with doing that, certainly. But,
I just, cause $85,000 increase
Oh, I know.
it's beyond, it's just, to me, it's too much. And I look at Derby, which is much bigger than Newport now, and they don't have the same type of ambulance service. I'm not that I want to cut, but if push came to shove, could you keep some full-time and have others on call? You know, as a way of cutting.
Sure.
I mean, that's the only way I can see, because, I mean, I look at all the other communities, not that I want to give up any type of service, but, you know, the $85,000 is more than what the city budget's coming at for an increase. And so,
I
that's what,
understand that, but you do realize that Derby, just for instance, because we charge you per capita. And our per capita cost to the city of Newport is, for the last 2 years, has been $22.90 per capita. Derby is $35.75. They're a little less than that per capita, but then they bought $60,000 worth of equipment. So for a non-career, non-full-time service, their cost per capita is $12 more per person than you.
they have a lot less tax rate than we do. I look at it that way too. You know,
Well, then
we can
they-
only offer so much in
but-
services, and we're reaching a
No,
point now.
I understand. But Brighton, I do have these papers. Brighton and Linden pay $52.65 per capita. Berrytown pays $50.82 per capita. Upper Valley Fairleigh pays $37 plus $5 going up this year, they're gonna be at $42 per capita. Derby's $35.75. Morrisville is $63.05 per capita. Elmore is $29.45, that's for a volunteer service. You know, we're at $22.90. What we're looking for is to be at $32 for the lower amount and $40 for the higher amount. You'd still be lower than, at the higher amount, you'd be lower than 5 other communities similar in size. That's the crux. We've been doing it, and the 5 towns in Johnson, we've always charged them more. So, makes it tough, but
So this is such a big hit.
it is.
That's why I designed this as a presentation, to sort of let this float over everybody, because acquiescing to an $80,000 increase when the city's own is about 58 or 59,000 based on a $3.8 million budget's a tough pill to swallow. And what I would like to recommend is that we take this up again maybe next Monday. And in the meantime, we'll do a little bit of research, and maybe we'll be able to come up with a better plan B or plan C. I'm not sure, but I think it's really important that the council understand the magnitude of the increase. That's, I don't know if I inserted that number into our budget to figure out what that total would be if we were to go for the 180. I'm looking at Jim to see if you did.
About 2 3/4 cents.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow right now, and we've been working so hard at keeping our budget numbers down at this particular state of Newport's development. I understand the seriousness of it. I mean, I think we've probably got some questions that are gonna wash over us between now and the next meeting. Some of it has to do with mutual aid, and some of it has to do with the availability if your guys are out on a transport and you're, got that 24/7 care. So those are questions. I think we're gonna have some questions about the structure of the organization that brought you to this level. I mean, it's, I've not heard of this is new territory, and I wanna make sure we handle it well, and I wanna make sure that we provide the community with a level of service that they become accustomed. So, given that it's such a tough pill, that was my recommendation, and that was my reasoning for recommending you come with a presentation. We're still in our budget process. We've got a few weeks. There's not an immediate rush in terms of the timeline that we have to have our budget final, so I think we do have a little bit of time on our side. We don't have a lot. We've got to have the budget finalized at the very latest, the end of the first week in January.
That's when I'd like it.
That would be pushing it.
After I get everything in there, I've got a lot of work to do to get this thing ready.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
And I understand that, trust me, that's why I was here
Yeah.
2 weeks ago and said, Laura, I need to, I got some scary figures here. Let me come down and chat with you and.
I appreciate you coming in, because when you first showed me the numbers, it's like I was killed over.
Yeah.
You also had to call Mike and have him take me.
I know. But I mean, that was the, but that was the reason for it.
Yeah, I
Because we
appreciate
understand that also.
Yeah.
And we've always, just scraped and scraped and scraped. And we've done it for 30 years. I've never been in the situation where this has happened, but I can explain why it happened pretty easily. And I explained some of it up front. It was none of it I had any control over at all. And it's not, we don't have a crystal ball. And should we have put money in our coffers? Probably.
But you probably didn't have it.
We never did, because we never asked for more all the time. I mean, like last year, we level funded. We didn't have to, but.
It usually comes back to bite you.
Well, it did this time.
It's usually good to go up at least a certain percent, if you can't, because if you level fund, it comes back to bite you.
But, I mean, in the end, we're providing a service. I mean, we're a nonprofit, so nobody has any skin in the game. It's not like we're a business and, we're trying to get more money out of anybody. We're just trying to provide you the service.
What baffles me is the tax from the state, tax on the nonprofit for a service.
That's incredible.
21,000 bill that you have to pay on your call.
Yeah, I mean, we fought it. We have an ambulance lobby. It's not as strong as some of the others apparently.
Mr. Mayor, I would be interested in seeing the per capita rates in cities that are closer in line with ours, that have a service that's very near to a community hospital. St. Albans, St. Johnsbury, Brattleboro, Rutland, Springfield. Do you have any of those handy?
Well, you just named off ones that they don't have. I have Linden.
St. Johnsbury would probably be a little closer.
Yeah, I don't have St. Johnsbury.
Of course, some of the other communities,
St. Johnsbury's a for-profit.
they're for profit, I think.
It's Calvin.
Because some of these ambulances are for profit.
So is St. Albans.
St. Albans is for profit also.
So,
I would think that the per capita rates would be pretty equivalent
I
regardless
don't know
of.
how they do that.
But yeah, look, if you could find out.
I could find out. So what do you want?
I would like the per capita rates
And
for,
I tried to give you similar squads in similar sized communities.
I don't think any of those are near a community hospital. So, I would like to see, I don't know, 3 or so, your choice between Morrisville, Springfield, Brattleboro, Rutland, St. Albans.
Morrisville, I have
Salisbury.
$63.05.
Then they're at Copley, right?
They have Copley right
Copley
there.
is in Morrisville,
Yeah.
so.
They're the highest in the state. So that one I do.
Thank you.
Brattleboro is 28. Is that, did you mention Brattleboro?
I did, yes.
That's 28, so I do have that one. We're still at 22 something. So St. Johnsbury, St. Albans,
Mhm.
what else? Springfield?
Springfield, Rutland,
Rutland's not comparable, but that's okay. I can do
thank you.
that. See, volume, what EMS as a rule for a squad similar to ours, if you have enough volume, your cost per capita would go down. And our volume is 1,500. Rutland probably, the break-even point they assume is around 4,000. Rutland probably has more than 4,000, so that would be
Because their population
the
is.
population. But, you know, you don't have a call every 2 minutes, so it just means your ambulance are running more, so in an 8-hour day, your people are generating more money for you. You don't necessarily need more people, so that's the issue here is we have to have the people here, they're not always out, you know, so, having a larger area, more people, more volume. But I will get you those figures, because
Right.
Rutland's not a real fair comparison.
Okay.
Because they're quite a bit bigger than we are. But the others would
Any other questions?
I can give you these, I don't know if you want.
Go ahead, Mr. Shinet.
You've already touched on the grants available. What is your greatest operation cost?
Payroll.
Okay. Other than payroll,
Huh?
other than payroll, where does fuel fit in?
Not huge. It's, our payroll is, it's gonna make me do this, so payroll is. Our payroll is over half of our operating. The next most expensive are payments for mortgage and ambulances and drugs. Ambulances meaning the cost to keep an ambulance equipped, drugs, equipment, bandages, you know, the our payments, I don't know if I can tell you this, but I can get you those figures. I can actually give you a copy of our budget. The next biggest cost is equipment. I mean, it's ambulances. An ambulance is, new ambulance is about between $135,000 to $150,000. Then you gotta, now.
And
So,
what,
and that's for what we have. You can get up to 300,000.
How many years on an ambulance? Does that read your mind? You read my
Well,
mind?
for us, way too many, about 10. And that's got about 200,000 miles on it when we retire it. So
okay, and your last purchase was when?
we bought 2 this year. Well,
Okay, so they should
let
both,
me take that back. We bought 1 in Newport this year. We bought 1. The Johnson, which pays us more money, we actually saw a little bit of a profit.
so for units here, you've got 2 or 3?
We have 3.
Okay. And of those 3, 1 is new this year,
One is-
which should last you about 10 years.
Yes.
You've got-
The other 2,
Go ahead. I just,
the other 2 are,
We do have we have an Explorer also. Have a trip.
Yeah, you've got four, they got 4 vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as far as ambulances, also three. Okay, so the other two are how old?
I think one's we have prior to this year, we didn't buy one for 4 years. So I would say it's probably a 2011.
So you have about 6 years to go on that one, approximately.
Yep.
And
The other one's the 2007, or 2009, excuse me.
thank you.
We need another one here soon, because it's got almost 200,000 miles. But we're not anticipating buying one next year with this budget, so.
And one last question, the information you said that you were gonna hand out, do you still have that, or?
That's the information that he has.
I have
If you-
extras,
if you
if
want
people
to-
want it,
If you
yeah.
want to.
What it is a
distribute
copy of the budget, a copy of the other regional towns that I did get, and the cost per capita for Newport City.
If you approve your copies now, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. You want one, Jim?
Yeah.
That sounds so excited.
I think I've seen them before.
Thank you.
You all set?
I'll take a copy.
Take it out.
Thank
That's,
you.
that's just that.
And may we have copies in the
Sure. Well, I don't have a million of them, but yeah, I
Well-
got.
You could get copies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, I'll give my copy.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, I've got extras, I just want to see.
Thank you.
You can pass that to Robin if you want. Might as well give mine to Joe or Ryan, whoever. Might as well have that right
Is that the budget?
I have two. Apparently I don't have the same amount of copies of everything, but I have one full set here. Somebody else wants one?
Sure, that would be great.
And a copy of the budget to Charlie. For the spare one. Thank you.
Who wants that? I have 2 others.
I'm now good, thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Going once, going twice.
I'm selling them. I need money.
Oh dear.
All right, very good.
Yeah, I think that's all we can do, and probably see you next Monday night.
You've got homework,
I've got homework and we'll talk some more.
Yeah.
talk some more.
Okay.
Appreciate you coming in.
All right. Well, I hate to, make your life any more difficult.
Likewise.
But we will try to do our best to make this work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Night.
Okay, the next item is the NVDA intersection study and the AARP walk audit report. It is just a vote to accept the reports. It doesn't mean that we're going to implement all the recommendations, but it's just to accept the work that was done. And normally you have a vote to accept these reports, and so you would need a motion to accept each report.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept each of those reports.
A motion has been made, is there a second? Made and seconded, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries.
Question? Will we be addressing the recommendations I know that we had talked about the walk signal length being extended. I was wondering if we were going to further discuss the Main Street removing that stop sign at some point?
Removing the stop sign.
Down here.
Oh, that's, when you say discuss it, you're talking about implementing it, or are you talking about discussing it?
Well, discussing it to decide whether we want to implement it or not.
I'm trying to think of what it said. It talked about making that a two-way stop. That was the ultimate thing.
Yeah.
I can put that on the agenda for a future meeting. What I'd like to do is get through our budget.
Sure.
We accepted the reports, or the findings, but there is a discrepancy, and it was briefed 2 weeks ago. AARP would like to see a four-way. The walking tour wanted a four-way stop over here, and yet Mr. Morton came in and said he'd just like straight flow on, so that'd be just 2 stop signs.
That's
So,
the
yeah.
big discrepancy of the,
That, yeah, but we accepted both of their reports, because that's what they both recommended. At a future date, we'll have to sit down and say, okay.
which one do we want to implement?
Well, one thing to bear in mind, I think, is that the NVDA study was done by an engineering company that studied the traffic flow, where AARP was best case scenario based on opinion. So that's, one is sort of research based and the other one is not. And they made that really clear. I mean, that was one of the inviting things about getting involved with the AARP study. And I think they had 2 or 3 or 4 top recommendations, and I think we're able to meet the top 3. 4? Yeah. So we want to work with them. And in order to implement this different stop sign traffic flow at that intersection, it's going to require some pretty significant advanced planning so that the community knows, and we do some test runs, and we talked about that internally as a team. So when we get ready to talk about that, we'll have our ducks in a row. But what I'd like to do is get through our budget, maybe put that on for a nice midwinter, dead of winter conversation.
The next item, old fire truck removal and equipment trade. The fire chief is here.
So basically, we've been trying to get rid of that old fire truck out back in the station. It's going on 1.5 years, almost 2 years. We've had several people interested in it, but they wanted next to nothing or want us to donate it. It's about $20,000 worth of work to the engine. That's why we ended up buying a used one, a used fire truck. It's been very good to us. Northern Fire Equipment Apparatus, who we buy our trucks from, offers $5,000 for the truck. I talked to them, said, hey, we need some new gear. The grants aren't coming through like they should be, like we hope. About 3 sets of gear, because gear is running around $2,000, $2,050 per set. I said 3 sets of gear versus the $5,000. They accepted that offer with your blessing. So we're actually be getting like $6,000 and some change for it versus the $5,000 cash. And it doesn't affect my budget from the taxpayers. And it gets the truck out of there, because it's doing nothing but depreciating, and it's not worth anything for metal, and it's a lot better than giving it away. And they're just going to cut the back end off it and use the poly tape that's in the back.
They're going to come and take it away.
They're coming up, when they come up to size all the guys for the gear, they're going to send the driver up and they're going to drive it off. And we have no expense for fuel, no expense for travel time, nothing.
It is drivable.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to have the oil tanker behind it to keep it filled on the way down to Connecticut or wherever they have to go.
That's their issue.
No way.
They're aware of the oil leak and stuff, so they're well aware of it. They put the poly tank in it and put the 10-inch dump valve, so they're basically gonna scrap it just for that tank. They don't want the pump, they don't want the cab. They said the pumps are a dime a dozen, and they just want that tank. So
Okay.
that would be my recommendation.
Position that.
I'll make a motion then that we accept Chief Leclerc's recommendation to trade the old truck for 3 sets of equipment.
Motion been made, is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to new business. I think we want to address at this time, Councilperson Ravone, you had sent an email with some questions. And I thought it would be good to address it in the open public
great.
versus responding in the email.
Wonderful.
The first one you asked about canvassing going on during the water bond vote. We'll have to ask the election, the official of the election, Mr. Johnson, to address that one first.
The only time we canvass is at general elections. Canvassing community takes the tallies from all the towns in the district, put them together, and tally the vote. That's what canvassing is. There's no canvassing going on in this election.
I think I must have used the wrong word then.
You might
Trying to
have
persuade.
canvass.
So it's my understanding that during elections, people that want to persuade you to vote one way or the other are allowed outside the building and not inside the building. So there was a question that arose. Some people were approached inside the building, being, I guess, explained to why the water bond vote was important. And being that that doesn't align with a political party, I was wondering if that falls under any rules about persuading or not.
Well, under the local election laws, anything you do outside, as long as you're not impeding the voters, is okay. Inside, you're not supposed to be coercing your vote. But if somebody comes up and asks somebody there their opinion, or ask them a question about it, I don't expect them not to answer. You know, I mean, if they're say, you go in there and vote for this, that's one thing. If somebody asks them a question, that's a different story.
Okay, thank you.
The other one was about centennial funds. Mr. Davidson can address that.
Okay. Centennial funds. We have a centennial committee that's charged with doing the centennial. Mr. Palmer donated $182,000. Those funds were donated specifically for the centennial. The check stubs on both checks say centennial celebration. The council never officially did a committee. They just said we need a committee. Laura and I, Paul said we do it, so we're doing it. It has its own checkbook. The money is not city funds. I do, however, run the expenses through the general ledger, so we know how much is spent, and that money will all be reimbursed through the centennial funds. We have our own internal budget, but it's not city money. That money is charged to the centennial committee to put on the celebration.
The only city money was the $25,000.
Yeah, the $25,000. Yeah. And that's been spent already. On the coin, we bought coins, and I think there's $32,000 spent, something like that. The coins and might be a couple other things in there. Can't tell you about something.
Then you asked, you questioned the Pomelo funds. I think that was centennial funds.
Well, what date was it? Was it Bennington Battle Day when Mr. Pomerleau was in town for the groundbreaking for the Vista Walking Path? And he, at that time, said that he was donating another $100,000.
That was at centennial.
So that's part of the 182. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's what that was.
Thank you.
Yep. And you questioned the Walmart funds.
If any have been used.
$5,000 was used for the TIF. That was for the legislation for the TIF. And that is clearly in the agreement with Mr. Davis. The money is for the downtown. It's not to be used to offset our budget or anything like that. It's clearly to be used for downtown. That's in that agreement.
That agreement is actually posted on our website. So if you go to our website, I think it's under, I want to say forms and documents, and we have a new category called downtown development. I think you'll find it right there.
I think that. And then the only other one was your question about the planning commission on the website. That technically shouldn't have been on there. That one link.
Sorry, what do you mean?
You had said something about why was somebody not listed on the planning commission, why was a position vacant on the website? Well, that one link was the only one out of all the commissions up there, and it was a mistake because the whole website's being redone.
Oh, so the correct planning commission is listed
It
elsewhere?
will be, and it was listed
Okay.
correctly, and if you clicked on municipal directory, it's there. But, yes? The website will be having a new look and a new, coming up, because the council chose not to hire someone. I've taken it upon myself to revamp the entire website and to move it and to bring it up to date. So far, I've got probably about 80 to 100 hours into it. And this time, I think I'm gonna submit a bill to the city because of the time I'm putting into it. And there was enough issues with the one before, and I had enough people complaining about it, from council to the public to whatever. I decided to take it upon myself to revamp and try to fix it. And so, but this time I may submit a bill, just for my time, because some people may think that I can work for free, but it can only go so far. But there will be a new one. I've given Laura a link right now to start going through it, to kind of critique it, to make sure I haven't made any major boo-boos. I think I'm getting everything moved over that needs to be moved over and trying to bring it up to date. And so that should be unveiled probably in the next couple weeks. It'll be a completely different website.
And email addresses for planning commission members?
Well, we would have to pay for more, but through the new hosting company, we can get them. I think you're allowed 50. That's outside the Gmail domain that we have for the internal whatever. We can sign up through the new hosting. And I think that's all part of your basic hosting. So they can all, once we move from the temporary domain that you have to the newportvermont.org, we can get those completely set up. Because usually when you pay for web hosting, you get 25 or 50 email accounts, so we'll be able to set them up.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, new business. Anything? No?
Just one more question,
Okay.
if you'll entertain me.
No, that's okay.
There is the Transportation Alternatives Grant application is due in 2 days, I believe. I was just wondering if we're applying for that.
I am not getting a grant ready in 2 days, no. It's called Transportation Alternatives, no. The only grant we have on deck right now is the USDA that Jamie's applying for the PPA.
PPE and SCBA's.
Yeah, that's the only one we have pending right now.
So the Rural Business Development Grant, that the letter of intent is due December 15th, is not, we're not planning to apply for that?
This
That's the one I got notice about today?
Was it? Yes, I think it was today.
I
just
forwarded
got one
that
today.
to Laura, just so that she would have it.
Yeah. I don't
That's an
know.
RBOG, which I think,
Perfect.
RBAG, this one's RBAG. I get mixed up between RBOG and
They're
RBAG.
all the same, they've conflated, the RBOCs are gone now.
Okay,
This is an RBDG, actually.
okay. All these acronyms that the USDA folks use, RBAG, RBOG.
And those grants have to, the RBDGs are the Rural Business Development Grants, and they
Yes.
have to, the project has to support business development. So they have to be able to show either retaining businesses or creating.
And the max, I think it's at 30,000. That's what it said in that little email, I think, today.
There's a special section for the Northeast Kingdom for the REAP zone.
Yeah, I didn't quite click all the way, I just read the basic.
There is a special set of funds under the REAP zone. We don't compete statewide. You can, but, we don't compete statewide.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anything new? Laura, anything?
Nothing.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, old business. Mr. Wilson?
Nothing.
Ms. Rubon?
No.
Anything old? No. I don't. No. Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, this may either be for Tom or for Laura. That street light over on Pine and Clover,
that you were asking for an extra one.
Right?
It's been called in.
Okay,
I can check with Vermont Electric to see what the timeline is.
okay.
Tell them just put up a new one.
All right, great, thank you.
Is that one that had been removed?
I don't know, I don't remember if we had that.
I actually
removed.
found my old list of the ones that were recommended to be removed, and I have it at the house on my desk.
I do too.
Could
I
be,
don't-
I'm not sure, but it was pretty dark though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember, I can't believe that we would have had it removed, you know.
No, I know, it's pretty dark as it was, I know.
On the corner of what now?
Clover and pine.
Clover Lane, yeah.
Over.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, old business, I kind of thought the council might discuss the recent bond vote and what's next under old business, but I didn't hear that, so is that gonna come up at some point, or just wait until,
Stay tuned.
okay.
Okay. Now we need an executive session to discuss real estate purchase options.
Why is it right?
Well, because I have moved at the motion.
Well, I've got my copy.
We do, it's been short period of time.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion.
I have an appointment at 8:30.
Go ahead. We have the motion. Please.
Okay. A motion, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion for the board specifying that premature general public knowledge of the subject of the anticipated executive session tonight would clearly place the board and/or persons involved in substantial disadvantage.
Motion to be made, is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries.
I just have to do the canonical question. Do you expect a decision to come out of this?
I don't.
Okay, that's what I'm with you.